Chapter 8, The Carousel Meeting, Fact or Fiction. The Warren Commission was unable to find any direct or indirect relationship between Oswald and Ruby, any credible evidence that they knew each other, or any evidence that Ruby acted with any other persons in killing Oswald. At the same time, it found no evidence of conspiracy, subversion, or disloyalty to the U.S. government by any federal, state, or local officials. The critics' first move, as in the case of the Kennedy and Tippit murders, is to imply that their favorite whipping boy, the 1,175-man Dallas Police Department, must have connived in the Oswald murder. Though often torn between accusing the police of inefficiency or complicity, and sometimes having it both ways, Lane and Weisberg seem to agree that Oswald could not have been murdered without police help. Lane accuses the police of making a trussed-up, slowly moving target out of Oswald. Weisberg says they made him a sitting duck. From this broad inference that there was police participation, not just stupidity, they proceed to more specific charges or innuendos. Number 1, that certain officers looked the other way while Ruby entered the basement and shot Oswald. Number 2, that the Warren Commission did not really try to fix responsibility. And number 3, that Ruby was deeply involved in the Kennedy murder. As evidence of Ruby's involvement in the assassination, Lane tells of a meeting at the Carousel on November 14th, 1963, with Ruby, J.D. Tippit, and a right-wing anti-Kennedy rug salesman in attendance. We shall deal with these ideas seriatim. First, the fact that plans for the transfer of Oswald were inadequate is indisputable. Dallas Police Chief Curry cannot be exonerated for his decision to make an advertised public spectacle of Oswald's removal. Rather than move Oswald quietly during the night, he informed newsmen on Saturday night that if they were back at the jail by 10 a.m. Sunday, they wouldn't miss anything. This ensured a crowd of reporters to complicate the transfer. It also permitted the TV networks to plan live coverage of the event. The TV coverage alone, showing the type of car in which Oswald was riding and his departure route from the jail, would have been an invaluable aid to anyone planning either to avenge Kennedy's death or to silence Oswald. But Curry's decision, in which he persisted even after the FBI and the sheriff's office received death threats to Oswald during the night, was clearly motivated by his desire to go along with the press and not try to put anything over on them, as he put it. When Oswald entered the basement, handcuffed to Detective James R. Lavelle and flanked by a half-dozen plainclothesmen, about 50 newsmen and 70 to 75 policemen were present, and a TV audience of millions was watching. Hardly a setting in which conspirators with any hope of escaping would perform an execution. Ruby, who had closed his nightclubs for the weekend out of respect to Kennedy, had seen Oswald Friday night at a press conference in the police lineup room. If he had been assigned to kill Oswald, he could have carried out his mission then with less chance of detection. He spent a good part of Saturday acting like a reporter, trying to track down the sponsors of an Impeach Earl Warren billboard and a full-page anti-Kennedy ad in Friday's Dallas Morning News, signed by Bernard Weissman, a rug salesman. He told his lawyer he thought the black border on the newspaper ad was a tip-off that Weissman knew the president was going to be assassinated. In an agitated state, he told Sister Ava that night he thought the ad and billboard were the work of either commies or the Birchers, designed to discredit the Jews. At about 11 a.m. Sunday, Ruby, whose movements over the entire weekend were checked out by the FBI, left his apartment with his Dachshund, Sheba, drove by Dealey Plaza, then went to Western Union to send a $25 money order to one of his broke showgirls, Karen Carlin. His receipt was time-stamped at 11:17 a.m., which, if he had planned it, would have left him just 4 minutes to get to the jail basement and kill Oswald. This was not close planning, however, since police and newsmen had been on standby since 10 a.m. and no precise time for moving Oswald was ever set. It was no planning at all. From the Western Union office, Ruby set off on a one-block walk to the gray stone building housing the jail. How he got into the basement no man will ever know with certainty. After the interrogation of dozens of policemen and reporters and viewing TV films of the scene, the commission acknowledged that it had no conclusive evidence as to his means of entry. But Ruby told both the Dallas police and the commission he walked down the ramp from Main Street, and the commission decided the weight of evidence indicated that was his route. Lane, by some logic, holds that how Ruby got into the basement is a matter susceptible to proof. Since no witness could swear he saw Ruby enter, Lane doesn't say how it could be proved. For the villain of this mystery, Lane singles out Patrolman Roy E. Vaughn, who was standing guard at the top of the Main Street ramp and who admitted in his testimony that he left his post momentarily to stop traffic for a police car leaving the building. As his witness, the witness to believe above all others, Lane invokes a former Dallas policeman, Napoleon J. Daniels, and quotes a deposition Daniels made 10 days after the Oswald killing. Several minutes later, I stepped out towards the street so that I could have a better view down the ramp. As I did so, I noticed a white male, approximately 50 years of age, 5 foot 10 inches, weighing about 155, 160, wearing a dark blue or brown single-breasted suit, white shirt, dark-colored tie. This man was not wearing a hat. He had light-colored hair, thinning on top, round face, kind of small head, fair complexion. He was not wearing an overcoat, nor was he carrying one, but he did have his right hand inside of his right coat pocket, approaching the ramp from the direction of the Western Union office. This person walked in the ramp and into the basement, going between Officer Vaughn and the east side of the building. Officer Vaughn was, at this time, standing at the top of the ramp in the middle of it, facing toward Main. I did not see Officer Vaughn challenge this person, nor did he show any signs of recognizing him, nor even being aware that he was passing, but I know that he saw him. It struck me odd at the time that Officer Vaughn did not say something to this man. With its precise detail, this description nearly but not quite matching Ruby, and this deposition suggesting that Vaughn deliberately passed Ruby into the basement, makes startling reading in Lane's book. Some of his readers indeed must ask themselves, why is the commission so stupid and Lane so smart? Particularly after Lane's observation that the commission placed little credence in Daniels. What Lane doesn't tell his readers is that both Vaughn and Daniels were given lie detector tests by the Dallas police. The polygraph indicated Vaughn was telling the truth when he, number 1, denied seeing Ruby enter the building, number 2, denied allowing Ruby to enter, and 3, denied talking to Ruby that day, and 4, denied permitting any unauthorized persons to enter the building. Daniel's test showed somewhat different results. When asked if he had told the complete truth in his statement, he answered yes, and the polygraph indicated he was lying. When asked, have you deliberately made up any of this story, he answered no, and again the machine indicated he was lying. When asked if he actually saw the person he described come from the direction of Western Union, he answered yes. The machine said he was lying. Only once in 9 questions did the lie detector indicate he was telling the truth. That was when he was asked, do you think the person you stated you saw enter the basement at that time was Jack Ruby? His answer was no. Ruby finally confirmed the commission's putative conclusion as to how he entered the basement in a tape recorded deathbed statement at Parkland a few days before he died. He insisted he walked down the Main Street ramp unseen on an impulse after leaving the Western Union office. In his taped testament, he correctly named the officer Lieutenant Rio Pierce, who was driving the police car that diverted Patrolman Vaughn momentarily. So I walked towards the ramp. I noticed a squad car, he told his brother Earl, who smuggled the tape recorder into his hospital room. On the head of the ramp, and an officer leaning over talking to him with his back to me. All I did was walk down there, down the bottom of the ramp, and that's when the incident happened. Next, both Lane and Weisberg professed to be shocked at the commission's questioning of Jack Ruby. The government, says Lane, referring to the commission, seems to have been reluctant to let Ruby testify. When at last he did, it was manifestly reluctant to question him, and only 2 of the 7 commissioners were present the day Ruby spoke. From this, an innocent reader might get the impression that the commission delayed unnecessarily and then spent little time on Jack Ruby. The fact is that Ruby, on 2 occasions, was almost unstoppable as a witness. The commission first heard him on Sunday, June 7th, 1964, in the interrogation room of the Dallas County Jail, where Ruby was awaiting trial for Oswald's murder. 2 members of the commission, Chief Justice Warren and Representative Ford, 3 members of its legal staff, 3 Texas officials, and Ruby's attorney, Joe H. Tonahill, listened to him on that occasion from 11:45 a.m. to 2:50 p.m. The following month, on July 18th, as a result of Ruby's request to Chief Justice Warren, Arlen Specter, and assistant counsel to the commission, returned to the Dallas jail and spent another 6 hours with Ruby, this time questioning him and helping him administer a lie detector test. Altogether, Ruby's testimony takes up nearly 100 pages in the hearings. Hardly a demonstration of any unwillingness on the part of the commission to let him talk. Ruby, as a matter of fact, took the lie test against the advice of his lawyers. "By God, I'm going to take this test," he insisted when attorney Clayton Fowler went to his cell to remind him he was faced with both legal and medical problems. Lane attempts to make a mystery of why Ruby was not asked to testify sooner and was not asked more searching questions. He quotes Ruby's remark to the Chief Justice, "Well, it is too bad, Chief Warren, that you didn't get me to your headquarters 6 months ago." He does not quote Warren's distinct response to that remark. "Well, Mr. Ruby, I will tell you why we didn't. Because you were then about to be tried, and I didn't want to do anything that would prejudice you in your trial. And for that reason, I wouldn't even consider asking you to testify until your trial was over. That is the only reason we didn't talk to you sooner." Ruby's trial ended in March that year. Even in June and July, when Ruby's testimony was taken, the commission had to proceed carefully because Ruby had an appeal pending, an appeal that eventually won him a new trial. Still, Lane, who sought fiercely to defend the rights of the dead Oswald before the commission, condemns Warren for having told Ruby, "If you think that anything that I am doing or anything that I am asking you is endangering you in any way, shape, or form, I want you to feel absolutely free to say that the interview is over." As Lane, a lawyer, must be well aware, any other course of conduct by the Chief Justice might have jeopardized Ruby at his new trial. As Lane, a lawyer, must be well aware, any other course of conduct by the Chief Justice might have jeopardized Ruby at his new trial, which was to have begun a month after he died. Ruby's only hope of beating the chair was to prove that his act was unpremeditated. Any unguarded statement he made to the commission about his feelings towards Oswald after the assassination might have taken as proof of murder with malice. Before he finishes with Ruby's testimony, Lane manages to misrepresent the purpose of a request Ruby made to the commission. Ruby made it plain, he says, that if the commission took him from the Dallas County Jail and permitted him to testify in Washington, he could tell more there. It was impossible for him to tell the whole truth so long as he was in the jail in Dallas. This is Lane's way of saying, with a knowing wink at his readers, that Ruby feared the Dallas police, his co-conspirators in Lane's book, were going to kill him. Even a cursory reading of Ruby's testimony makes it clear that what Ruby feared in Dallas was not his friends, the police, but the impeach Earl Warren anti-Jewish plot he hazily perceived the day after Kennedy was killed. Ruby: Gentlemen, if you want to hear any further testimony, you will have to get me to Washington soon, because this has something to do with you, Chief Warren. Ruby: Chief Warren, your life is in danger in this town. Do you know that? Ruby: There is an organization here, Chief Justice Warren, if it takes my life at this moment to say it. There is a John Birch Society right now in activity, and Edwin Walker is one of the top men of this organization. Take it for what it is worth, Chief Justice Warren. Ruby: If you understand my way of talking, you have got to bring me to Washington to get the tests. Do I sound dramatic? Off the beam? Lane's routine misrepresentations are insignificant compared to his story of the meeting, a purported conference involving Ruby, Officer Tippit, and Weissman, the rug salesman, at the Carousel on November 14, 1963, 8 days before the assassination. This is really, as Tom Wolfe would say, the candy-colored tangerine flake streamlined baby of all the wild, mind-stretching, undocumented, unverified Kennedy assassination stories. And Lane tells it with only a modest disclaimer. I do not suggest that the allegation is unimpeachable. According to Lane, who first gave the information to the Warren Commission on March 4, 1964, the meeting at the Carousel lasted 2 hours. He has never specified what these three men of wildly divergent interest discussed, but again, the reader is expected to catch on. What else but the assassination? Lane cites a motley collection of witnesses, not witnesses who say they saw the meeting, but who say or once said they may have seen Weissman or Tippit in the Carousel. One such witness is Curtis Craffard, Ruby's bartender handyman, who, according to Lane, told the FBI that Weissman had been in the Carousel on a number of occasions. Lane does not go on to say that in the same interview with the FBI, Craffard admitted that he could have my recollection of a Mr. Weissman mixed up with someone else. Nor does he report that in a subsequent FBI interview, Craffard said he thought the Weissman he remembered was a Dallas detective, 38 to 43 years old, whose first name may have been Johnny. Similarly, Lane cites one of Ruby's showgirls, Karen, Little Lynn Carlin, as saying she thought Weissman had been at the club a few nights. He does not add the interesting intelligence that when she testified, she mistook an FBI picture of Weissman for a picture of Ralph Paul, Ruby's financial backer. Paul had been at the club a few times. In the end, Little Lynn said she was certain she had never seen either Weissman or Tippit talking together or with Ruby. In addition, Ruby and Weissman denied ever meeting, and Tippit's widow swore that to the best of her knowledge, her husband had never been in the Carousel. Lane himself destroys any credibility his meeting story may have had by revealing in his book what he refused to tell the Warren Commission, namely the original source of the story. His source, he says, was a reporter named Thayer Waldo, formerly of Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Waldo's informant, in turn, was a customer of Ruby's who dated a stripper and who, understandably, did not wish his visits to the Carousel to attract attention because he was a married man and his girlfriend had become pregnant. Thus, Lane asks us to believe that he and Waldo, who tried unsuccessfully to sell a book called The Dallas Murders after the assassination, knew of a witness to a meeting that might literally have involved the national security, but refused to name that witness to a presidential fact-finding commission. And so doing, I submit he is either admitting the story was a hoax and he knew it, or asking us to believe that he places the family security of a Carousel customer over the security of his country. I am inclined to accept the first alternative. As Alice would say, the claims and arguments of the Commission's critics get curiouser and curiouser. As they do, the Commission's conclusions look solider and solider.